Hello, BookTube, and welcome back to another one of those Irish stew videos that I so much like ranting and that you so much like hearing. not quite sure why. I know you all signed up here for me to talk about books, but only a small part of an Irish stew video is about books. But anyway, we're going to organize this the way we always do. We're going to talk about the world, and then we're going to talk about the United States, my own country. Then we're going to talk about broader YouTube. Then we'll talk about BookTube. And then finally, we will end with me, the most important subject of them all. Now, for the world, there are two things that I want to talk about. And I don't know what order to do them in, and I also don't know. One is about the past, and one is about the future. I guess we could start with the past, which is that former Vice President Dick Cheney died. And we are all living in the world that he made. I know he was vice president to an United States president. There was never any illusion during the presidency of George W. Bush, who was in charge, who was making the calls, whose vision was actually being imposed on the rest of the world. There was never any doubt in anybody's mind about that it was Dick Cheney and not George W. Bush. And that vision was pure evil. It was purely reprehensible. And we are living in the world that was made by that vision. So I guess you might call it the past and the present. That is going to be the cause for the death that launched 1,000 opinion pieces. Oh God, I shudder to think what the Sunday newspapers are going to be like this coming weekend. I just shudder to think about it. There are going to be young, dumb contrarians like Ezra Klein saying that actually I think it was a good vision for the world. What he means by Charlie Kirk was doing politics in the right way. What Ezra Klein means by that is I think the opposite of what I am so calmly, sagely saying. I actually think the opposite. I'm just going for clicks. I'm just here for clicks and traffic. That's literally all I care about. I don't have any principles otherwise. There are going to be all sorts of think pieces like that, but all sparked by the death of this one reprehensible man. So that is the past, and I guess the present, and I guess if I wanted to be all English major and artsy-fartsy about it, the other thing about the world would be the present and the future. Referring, of course, to the Cambridgeshire stabbing in England. The Huntington train, a man stabbed 10 people. Before being tasered and wrestled to the ground. This is a very touchy subject. I'm not quite sure how to bring it up. If you don't stray into the darker corners of the internet, and if you live in a fairly nice neighborhood, fairly kind and pleasant neighborhood, then you will probably have no idea the extent and the virulence of xenophobic racism that now exists everywhere in the world. Hastening climate catastrophes and also massive wealth inequalities have led to an enormous displacement of people. And those people are moving by the thousands, by the hundreds of thousands, into societies that aren't ready for them, into societies that don't want them, into societies that can easily identify them, since they are non-white. None of them are white-skinned. So that is creating a background tension. That background tension, as much as anything else, is what tipped my own country, the United States of America, into fascism, from which, of course, as any of you know history will know, it will never emerge. War is the only thing that can bring a country out of fascism. War imposed on it from the outside, and that can't happen in the age of nuclear weapons. It'll be annihilation. It won't be occupying forces in New York. It will be annihilation. As is illustrated by the classic hypothetical, what if Hitler had atomics in the bunker? No one doubts what he would have done. No one does. Well, that hypothetical doesn't have to be stretched very far for you to see that in the nuclear age, there is another alternative ending to a militant fascism, and that is the destruction of the human race, destruction of most living things on Earth. But that sense, that feeling that my neighborhood doesn't look the way it did 10 years ago. It's much more violent. It's much smellier. It's much louder. Women are not safe walking down the street. If I am a woman, I don't feel safe walking home from a bar unless I've got 4 or 5 friends with me. And the people who are making me feel unsafe, this is the way the thinking goes. The people who are making me feel unsafe look exactly the same. They have one physical trait in common, which is that they aren't white. They have other traits in common that demagogues have been quick to seize on. They are not assimilating. They are not interested in assimilating. They're not interested in learning the language, much less behaving themselves on public transportation. They're not interested in doing any of that. And there are thousands of them. Suddenly, the thinking goes in every community center, in every garden center, in every grocery store. This has led to commentary on what used to be the far right here in the United States. It is not, and also in the UK. It's not the far right anymore. It is just the right. And it is much more popular, much more demographically grounded than you might allow yourself to admit. And the reason I bring this up in relation to the hunting to stabbing is because the young man who did the stabbing looks exactly like you would think. Damningly looks exactly like you would think. That has already become priceless for the demagogues who want to use that in order to do to the UK what they did to the US. And therefore, I want to tell you, those of you who live in the UK, that this Huntington train stabbing guarantees you Prime Minister Nigel Farage. It guarantees that. I just want you to be ready for it. That's all. And I don't say X number of years of Prime Minister Nigel Farage, because it's going to be a long time. It's going to be a long time, and it's going to be the revival. You can already see it in certain UK immigration subreddits. You can already see the resurgence of references to Enoch Powell's Rivers of Blood speech. Virtually mimeographed to the present day. You don't need to change the wording at all, as many of these young xenophobic racists have pointed out. You don't need to change the wording at all. Only they say it approvingly. I think you should get ready. Those of you in the UK, should get ready for Sir Keir Starmer to be your Joe Biden, and for nothing to ever be the same once Nigel Farage wins. But anyway, that I'm following that story. In the United States, when there is violence, it's going to be a fat, pasty white MAGA supporter. That's almost certainly who it's going to be. But this kind of an incident exacerbates the tenderness at the membranes that every Western nation is feeling as more and more and more black and brown faces show up on home streets, as more and more and more of them do. Those migrations, that vast amount of population displacement is probably not fixable. It's probably not reversible. And so it will become an universal underground element in a lot of what is coming. In government changes, as governments promise to do something about this. They don't intend to, they don't care about it at all. The promise to do something about that particular issue is what they will use to manipulate the base, to give them power, which is what they want. So, needless to say, I'll be keeping an eye on this, but I think it's already for sure what this guarantees. So that is the world, is the Huntington stabbing, and Dick Cheney has died. And then for the U.S., is having, it's very bittersweet. The U.S. is having a series of elections today. It's not the midterms, and it's certainly not the general. But there's a series of elections, and they are all being viewed by the dumb, fascist-enabling mainstream media as bellwethers on the status of democracy and on the status of the public's thoughts about the Trump regime. You may have seen in the news that the Trump regime, outside of Air Force One, where Trump's minions are simply lying to him. They're just telling him whatever he wants to hear, because if they don't, he'll have them hauled out of the presidential cabin on Air Force One and thrown out an airlock. They're physically afraid of him. So they're just lying to him about how popular he is. But probably you've seen in the news, if you're an American anyway, you've probably seen in the news that he has epically low ratings, epically low polls. It doesn't mean anything. As I have stopped, I used to leave comments on channels that were doing hyperventilating videos about this subject. I've pretty much stopped leaving such comments, pointing out that these things don't matter. They're utterly irrelevant. But in the alternate world where mainstream and alternate media live, they are important, because they mean that the next time that any kind of nationwide election is held, MAGA will go down hard. I don't know what news items they are watching to think that anything like that is ever going to be up to the will of the people again. I really don't know what world they think they're living in. But those elections are nevertheless happening today. And one of them, the most famous one, is for mayor of New York City. A pretty powerful position, certainly in New England and the Eastern Seacoast, pretty powerful position. And Zoran Mamdani is hugely favored to win. And he is a Muslim, and he is a communist. Or a socialist rather. He has made all sorts of extravagant promises. Let's use New York's staggering wealth for the benefit of New Yorkers. Let's have city-run grocery stores that aren't gouging prices and are offering healthy food. Let's maybe have them open up extension grocery stores in food deserts, in so-called food deserts, where the only alternatives for the low-income people who live there are horrible foods that are just going to make them unhealthy. Let's have state-sponsored a whole bunch of other stuff, free public transportation, free all sorts of other stuff. New York City could easily afford this. Boston is making tentative but ever-increasing steps to do much the same thing. I think those steps are way too tentative, but Boston is showing that it is possible. Boston is an extremely affluent capital of the wealthiest state in the union per capita, and is showing little tiny incentives to take steps in the way of giving back some of that wealth, all of which comes from anyway. Mamdani is he's young, he's charismatic, he tends to mop the floor with his debate opponents, and Trump hates him and has said, I know that it goes without saying that what he's saying is illegal. Of course it is. As I mentioned on these Irish Stew videos, his regime has not done anything legal since it took power, which is staggering. That is absolutely staggering. They've done nothing legal in all that time. And Trump, as usual, threatened that if New York elects Mamdani, then he will cut off federal funding for the city. That is illegal. That is a felony. That is felony extortion. That is also a RICO charge. It doesn't matter, because the Trump court has said that Donald Trump personally, and no one else, mind you, no subsequent president, no previous president, just Donald Trump. The Trump court has said Trump is immune from U.S. law. He is above the law. In the United States, no one is above the law except Donald Trump. So he can threaten, he can commit any kind of felony that he wants. But if any of his minions were to repeat that threat, they are not immune from prosecution, if prosecution were ever to happen. But Trump has also been extremely and energetically dog-whistling his base to kill Mamdani, which is the only thing he knows how to do. It's ultimately the only thing he knows how to do, is just be a mob boss. He's always dreamed of it. He's always wanted to be one. Now he's the ultimate mob boss. We shall see. Probably by the end of the day, Mamdani will win. I have a feeling that Cuomo, his main opponent, will take a page from the Trump playbook and just simply not concede. We'll see. So far in the United States politics, the people who simply don't concede are simply politely ignored as crackpots. Carrie Lake thinks that she is governor of Arizona right now. She still thinks she's governor of Arizona right now. So we'll see. We'll see how that turns out. It's a minor thing. It's bittersweet. The reason I say it's bittersweet is because it's utterly meaningless. There is a militant fascist, Christo-fascist regime in power in the United States now. So they're not going to say, oh, geez, We were doing so well. We were demolishing civil rights left and center. We had mass thugs kidnapping American citizens off the streets, beating them, pummeling them, shooting them in the head. We were committing murder in the Caribbean every day. And now we have to stop doing all that because, the voters in Poughkeepsie voted us out. I still find it hard to believe how many political commentators think that is even a chance of happening. but it's election news for the U.S. Believe it or not. Then we can move on to happier things. For YouTube, there is a YouTuber called Cole Hastings. He did a really good video. I'll leave a link to it down below. Might be worth your time to listen to, about AI psychosis. The AI psychosis epidemic is how he phrases it. He says the AI psychosis epidemic is real. Nowhere in his video does he prove that there is such a thing as an epidemic going on here, and there isn't. I've read a lot on this subject. There is no epidemic going on here. There are cases, probably 24, where people either severely hurt their health or died because they were in weird, locked relationships with AI. Either some sort of chatbot or an actual avatar that seems to speak. His video is fascinating, just intelligent and really, really well done. It adds to the fire of my curiosity to find out about these things. There are all sorts of companies. He names them all in the video. You're going to learn a lot from the video. He's really good at this. He names all the companies that do these sorts of things. One of them is called Replica. And I actually thought about shelling out the money per month to craft a talking AI avatar and see what it would be like. The free samples that those sites give you, I've tried, and they don't tell you anything. They don't tell me what I want to know. Because every account that I've heard of these things it tells me that the algorithm learns as it goes. So that the relationship, the actual content of the relationship that you have in a month will be unrecognizably different from what you have in that trial first day, where the AI is simply repeating back what you say and approving of it. These things are built to learn as they go along and to accumulate into a personality. All the ad hoc accounts that I've read on Reddit, from people who have done this over months and months, the people all say, it was odd and weird at first. It felt just masturbatory at first. But after a while, I swear there was a moment when suddenly it felt like this was a person. I want to get to that moment and see what it's like. I want to know about this phenomenon if it's going to get more omnipresent and maybe worse. I want to know what it's like firsthand, and I don't know. I'm still going back and forth. Cole Hastings' video actually pushed me a little bit towards maybe doing it, maybe getting a full-blown account with something like Replica, craft a persona, have it up in the corner of the desktop, talk to it every day, and see how it grows, see how it changes. I'm not worried about developing AI psychosis of my own. And do you know what protects me from AI psychosis? I can psychologically torment all of you anytime I want. As long as I've got that kind of dictatorial power, why would I need an AI to tell me I'm great when I can simply order you to tell me that I'm great? So that is YouTube. A pretty interesting subject, especially if the AI craze continues. So you might want to watch it. And then we can do BookTube. And BookTube, I've got a bonanza of things. And fortunately, they fall into a neat dichotomy, a neat dialogue. Because BookTube is old now. BookTube is over 10 years old now. Well over 10 years old if you follow people like Arlie Bissett or all the very oldest BookTube videos are much older than 10 years old. But BookTube itself coalescing into channels that do the newbie tag and that have tags and whatnot, and events and read-alongs and read-alouds and whatnot. That's just a little older than 10 years old. There are people on this platform who have been here that whole time. They're still making videos. And yet we are constantly attracting new people who ponder about it for a long time. Some of you who've made a channel will remember that period where you were pondering, where you weren't sure you were going to do it or not. Some of you who were pondered for a while and then made a channel, you can't imagine that ever going back. You can't imagine why you waited so long. Because this is a lot of fun. And it's very, very easy to do. I want to link to 4 BookTube videos that show that dichotomy. Because 2 are new channels, and 2 are old channels. We can do the new channels first. There's Sailing Through Books, who has a tag, a favorite quotes tag that is going the rounds now. That's how I learned about her channel. I'll leave a link to it. I went and watched a bunch of videos. Wonderful, absolutely wonderful. And there's also JTH Books, who is also a wonderful channel, also new to me. I don't think he's been making booktube videos that long. But one of the qualities that he shares in common with Sailing Through Books is that particular X factor. It's not, is your reading all that interesting? Or do you do a lot of reading? Or do you read different things? Or anything like that. Rather, it's that X factor of how comfortable you are on camera speaking extemporaneously. How comfortable are you doing that? It's an odd thing. You're talking alone in a room to a camera. And yet, some people stop seeing the camera and start seeing the people they're talking to. And it all feels weird and weirdly natural. And then some people don't have that X factor. It's still worth watching, but they don't have that X factor. I find these 2 channels fascinating in addition to how entertaining they are. So those are the 2 new channels. And then the old channels, we can deal with Michael K Vaughan, who did a video. I'm sure you don't need me to point it out to you, but I'll leave a link to it anyway, just in case you missed it. He did a video on his 100 favorite classic books. And he acknowledges right away that his channel's signature is not really classic literature. Not his signature, not him as a reader in his life, but the signature of his channel is not really classic literature. It's more pulpy literature, giant monsters, talking gorillas, giant bugs, that sort of thing. And yet he has a deep history with classical literature, with classic literature of any kind, more than 150 years old. And the video is just, oh my, it's just wonderful. It's longer than most of his videos, and it's just wonderful. And as is the case with most 100 whatever videos, it's going to have you jotting things down, almost certainly. And if Michael K Vaughan has been around for a long time, well, Karl Anderson has been around for even longer. Karl Anderson was a wonderful book blogger for a long, long time, and then became a booktuber, and is wonderful at that as well. And he did a video just recently. I'm sure that he would say don't bother, but I wanted to show it to you just in case you didn't see it. I want to make sure to leave a link to it, where he mentions a comment that he got from a rude viewer saying that he really ought to pay attention to all his ums and ahs, because there are so many of them that they become intrusive in listening to him and to what he's actually saying on camera. And if you haven't seen the video, maybe you don't have any idea who Eric is, it doesn't matter, because your reaction when I tell you that is going to be the same. All of you are going to have the same reaction, which is what kind of a jerk would leave a comment like that. Right. That is the right reaction. That is absolutely true. But it's fascinating to listen to anyway. It would be, I think, a very different video if Eric were a wet behind the ears newbie, but he's not. He's been doing this forever. And doing it great forever. So I wonder what it will make you think. In case you've missed it, it's really thought-provoking, so I thought I would leave a link to it down below. So those are, you see what I did there? 4 booktube channels. 2 old, 2 new, showing what a constantly renewing wonder this little corner of booktube is. And now we'll get to the kvetching. Now we'll get to me, the subject of me. And the subject of me actually has a specific origin story. Because I ran an errand yesterday morning. I ran errands yesterday morning, and one part of those errands did not work. It failed through people not having their crap together. Simple as that. Wasn't anybody's fault but that. It was simply, and so I was inconvenienced. That's always the way when you don't have your crap together. It's never just you who suffers. It's not usually mostly you that suffers. I was inconvenienced. I made lemonade out of lemons, and I had a wonderful day. And then I returned to the scene of the crime today, expecting that problem would be solved, that crap would be, in fact, together. And it was not. Same thing, same place, same person. Just standing there, eyes 2/3 closed. So I felt like I should do this in front of her face. I felt like I should say, are you here? Do you actually see that there's a person here? And that you have massively inconvenienced this person and now are going to inconvenience him even more? because you will not pay attention to what you're doing. Now, I understand what a service economy job is like. I understand what retail is like. I understand that really well. I'm not some wavy-haired Gen Z sexy influencer who's never had a job in his life. I worked in retail for 25 years. I know what it's like. And I always used to tell people back then, I know that it's natural if you are a pouty baby for you to think of the customer as the enemy. Because if there weren't any customers, you wouldn't be here. You'd be at home watching TV. And that's wrong, of course. Almost everything you think is wrong. And that is wrong. The customer is not the enemy. And you are not hurting anyone but yourself when you try not to do your job. You're only making things worse for yourself. That's not true. You're making things worse for everybody, but you're mainly making things worse for yourself. And you just don't realize it. There is nothing that's going to make your workday longer than you trying not to be there. Because you are there, and you need to be there for your paycheck at the end of the week. Actually doing a competent job, actually seeing there's a person in front of you, actually caring about what you're going to do from minute to minute, from day to day, doing it right, doing it correctly, that's not you surrendering to the man. That's not you becoming the kind of dried out husk that you think, mistakenly, your parents are. All of that is nonsense. Now, I couldn't say any of this this morning. I couldn't say any of this because I'm not going to psychoanalyze some zombified vape head non-entity for not doing their job correctly. But I have to admit, I am getting tired of encountering this. I know, you all poked fun at me when I wondered, is it possible that I am no longer fit to deal with the outside world? It's so unruly. When I said that, all in innocence, because I am an innocent 20-something, you all jumped on top of me. Oh, Steve met other people. The world must be horrible. I'm wondering if the world isn't getting a little worse on this heading. That's all. I'm wondering if it isn't getting a little worse. I know that's a typical thing for an old person to wonder. Oh, there's no such thing as customer service anymore. I know that. Objectively, I'm wondering if it isn't getting worse. Because it happens now a lot to me, where I reach a point pretty quickly with someone whose job is to do something. I reach a point pretty quickly where I am on the verge of saying, well, what are either one of us doing here if you're not going to do this? Can we find somewhere in your command structure here someone who is present, someone who wants to do their job? Can we find that person? I've reached the point in this particular instance with this particular errand where I want to just walk up to anyone under 40 and say, I have some business that I want to conduct here. I don't want to do it with you. I've never talked to you before, but I have a feeling I know what I'm going to get. I would like you to find me the oldest manager here before I even talk to you. So you haven't given me any reason to complain. I would just like you to find me someone who is present and who wants to have an interaction with a customer. You don't, so I don't want to waste the time. I haven't done that yet. I don't want to do that. Anyway, that is the me part. It is a little screed about incompetence and your unwillingness to do the job you're actually doing. You are mainly making your day worse for yourself, and you should stop. So there. So anyway, that's the me part of this. I'm going to wrap up whatever this was, but I'll see you next time. We'll have more to talk about. Thank you, BookTube.